This time tomorrow, National will have a new leader. 23 hours away, 5 o'clock tomorrow, they'll be joining us on Checkpoint to discuss why they won and what it is they hope to achieve. But will it be Amy Adams, Simon Bridges, Judith Collins, Stephen Joyce or Mark Mitchell? That was in alphabetical order, by the way. We think the top two are Amy Adams and Simon Bridges. It's close between them. And will Bill English's successor be the same person to see the party through to the next election? Life as an opposition leader is tough. Dr. Don Brash has weathered leadership battles both as the leader of National and ACT. Of course, he led National into that 2005 election, and I asked him today who he thought was going to get the job dubbed the worst job in politics.
Well, I don't know, of course. I'm not close to the caucus these days. I know 3 of the 5 candidates quite well. I don't know Amy Adams or Mark Mitchell so well, because I was in Parliament with Judith Collins, worked closely with Stephen Joyce when he was director of the party, and got to know Simon Bridges pretty well too.
Okay, who do you rate out of the 5?
I personally think for this particular moment in time, opposition leader, the best choice would be Judith Collins. She's the only one of the 5 who's actually been in opposition. Not long after I became leader of the opposition myself, I was at a cocktail function where Jonathan Hunt was present, then the Speaker of the House.
Absolutely.
And of course Labour.
Labour, yeah.
We'd been close friends prior to my being in Parliament. He said, Don, being leader of the opposition is the toughest job in Parliament. You're expected to have an informed opinion on everything the Prime Minister has an opinion on, and you have a small fraction of her resources to back you up. So it's very, very tough. And I think only Judith Collins understands that reality.
David Longy said in 1984, if you look like an opposition, you remain one. Is that the problem with Judith Collins, that she is too much an opposition politician?
Well, possibly, but of course she's been a minister in the government also, several different ministerial portfolios, some of them pretty tough. So she's had experience in both opposition and government, and I think that's useful. There are plenty of people who find her too aggressive, too much like a pit dog, but in opposition, I think that's an advantage. She also has the advantage that she's a woman. We've got a Prime Minister who's a woman, a very attractive woman, who's a pregnant woman. Attacking her will seem pretty difficult for a man. Not easy even for a woman, but particularly difficult, I think, for a man.
Of course, this conversation is working on the assumption that whoever leads National from tomorrow on will lead National into the next election. And what we know, looking back to when Jenny Shipley lost in 1999, she was followed by Bill English, then you, and then John Key, who won. Helen Clark lost in 2008. She was followed by Phil Goff, David Shearer, David Cunliffe, Andrew Little, and then Jacinta. Yeah. I mean, this is extraordinary. It goes back to your point about being leader of the opposition and it being tough. But will the person who wins tomorrow lead National into the next election?
Yes, it's a very good question. I don't, of course, know the answer to that question, but I could see Judith Collins as being the Prime Minister also. I mean, she's very consciously emulated Maggie Thatcher in her style. Even her dress code makes her look like Maggie Thatcher. She wears formal suits and so on. So I could see Judith Collins as Prime Minister, certainly.
The other elephant in the room here is MMP.
Yes, that's right.
And National cleaned up on election night. Had it been a first past the post,
that's right,
we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right.
Bill English would be Prime Minister and the Nats would be enjoying the lovely benefits of being in government. But who of the 5 is best able, do you think, to work with a coalition partner and to cultivate a coalition partner?
Yeah, that's a very tough question. I don't know the answer. I suspect, though, the answer might be a Simon Bridges. And funny enough, I think he would be my second choice, even though he's male, and I've just made the point that the leader of the opposition should be a female. But Simon has got some characteristics which I think would make it easier for him to deal with, for example, a Winston Peters than perhaps most of the others.
How hard is it to deal with Winston Peters? In 2005, if you'd managed to swing Winston Peters, you would have been Prime Minister, right?
That's correct, yeah. Helen and I both had 57 people supporting us to be Prime Minister, and Winston Peters once again decided which of the two would be Prime Minister. I don't know Winston very well, I have to say. Until, 12 months ago, the last time I spoke to him was in 2005. I mean, we're not close bosom pals at all. He's a curious enigma, really. I think it's the best way of describing him in New Zealand politics. Quite unique in a sense. So not easy to deal with Winston, but will he still be leader of New Zealand First in 2020? I personally doubt it. So the leader of the leader of National, leader of the opposition, I suspect will be dealing with either Ron Mark or Shane Jones.
Which means, and we were doing a lot of crystal ball gazing here, but that would make me think that New Zealand First will be less of a force, right? I mean, Shane Jones might have some of the appeal that Winston Peters has. Ron Mark doesn't have anywhere near the appeal that Winston Peters has. And so National needs to cultivate new friends, doesn't it? And at the moment, it's hard to see who they might even be.
That's right. At the moment, ACT looks very small indeed. Having said that, the Free FDP in Germany disappeared from the Bundestag completely at one election, came back with 10%. So who knows what happens to ACT. But minus ACT, what have you got? United Future is gone, Maori Party is gone. Could National do with the Greens? Not in their present state of mind. And if the Greens had a change of heart, and like the German Greens were willing to talk to a centre-right party, then that changes the ballgame completely.
This is a cheeky question, you may not want to answer it, but if you were in caucus tomorrow, who would you be voting for?
I think I'd vote for Judith.